Thank you. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. It's 2:08. It's Tuesday, August the 6th, 2024. We have an opportunity here today for Public Works to give response to some recent public comments. With no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the Public Works Director.
All right. Thanks for having me. I'm here today to address some public comments made at the July 24th regular consent business agenda. I was not in attendance at that meeting. I received a handful of calls from people asking me about it who had watched it on YouTube, which prompted me to watch the video myself. I'm thankful for that opportunity that they are recorded so I can, instead of just reading the minutes, watch them back. I'm just going to start by some quotes made by a member of the public at the end of that meeting during public comment time. Mr. Matt Beener made some comments. And to quote, "A lot of statements made in here that I don't believe are true. Road fund was $267,120 over budget, and the ambulance district was $103,862. No public hearing on either of these budgets to put cash into the reserve, into the fund to determine the overage spending." He also went on to say, "You're dinged on your audit for the procurement procedures. Tony only caught you on the chiller. And if you remember right, the sanding trucks between 350 and 400,000, they never got bid. There's another one that wasn't bid. The generators for the county shops were never bid. That was $70,000 to $80,000. There's a bunch that was never caught. The excuse is that the county was not aware of any formal procurement method requirements for federal awards." Mr. Beener then pointed out that procurement procedures were passed June 22nd of 2021. And to start quoting again, "It's all part of the federal procurement procedures. I don't think we've had a lot of turnover in the elected officials since this has been passed, or the department heads. And for them to claim that they do not know, either they didn't read it, which is incompetent, or they didn't care. Don't know." Then he goes on to say, "That might also explain why year-end financial closing reports, they didn't have year-end closing procedures on how to do it. Anything else? In February 2024, I did a public records release for budget roads department, By February, everything should have been put back on the 21-22 budget year or 22-23. They were $174,000 over budget. How do you end up $264,000 over budget? After February, you paid more bills. That's how messed up the financials are." So those are the comments that I would like to address today. So there's a few pieces, and I just am going to kind of start and work my way through it. I want to talk a little bit about procurement procedures. I feel, especially since the new board came on, we had some changes of department heads. I came on. We've had a new sheriff come on. Solid Waste has a new department head. We've had a lot of changes with department heads and elected officials. I feel that the county has given great support, including our prosecuting attorney, to make sure that everybody is where they need to be on practices with procurement. The county is always trying to improve, and I feel like the county has really made some great strides in that department. As far as the procurement of the generators, that one was with LATCF money, and the actual price of the purchase of the generators came to, for 4 generators, $40,585.70. That amount as a purchase total, one purchase, is under the required $50,000 amount that you have to put out for bid. The other costs associated with the project, which to date we have spent $83,423.18. We didn't contract this whole project out to a general contractor to oversee the project. This was something that we managed in-house. We purchased the generators, the parts to hook them up. Since we are not certified electricians in our department, we did have to bring on certified electricians in each of the shops to hook those up, and two of them had to be hooked into our natural gas. And so both of those duties could not be done in-house. So that's why the project itself is at $83,423, but the actual purchase price for the generators was under the mandatory $50,000, came in at $40,585.70. He mentioned that Tony did not catch everything. I believe that to be an opinion of Mr. Wiener's, because the procurement of the sanding trucks, the purchase has not been completed. So that is nothing that Tony would have looked into or reviewed. And to have the public thinking that our outside auditor is not catching things is a little misleading. I also want to talk a little bit, because this is a public meeting and I chose to do it this way to be on the record to educate the public. There's some pretty heavy violations that come along with not following procurement procedures. And those can be anything from a reprimand, termination of employment, all the way up to fines up to $5,000 per occurrence. I don't think any of the elected officials or department heads in this county take that lightly. And so we try to be as diligent as we can to follow every guideline that is out there. Talking a little bit about overage in the budget, I would like to remind the public and the board that I have yet to be the Public Works Director for an entire budget cycle. I started second quarter of last year, and we have not finished our budget cycle this year. So I've yet to do a budget start to finish. This will be my first start to finish year. As far as spending after the fact, when the budget is closed, we don't just get on Computer Arts and punch our own bills in and a check comes out and we get paid. There are several checks and balances. In my department, we code the invoice. We send it up to the accounts payable department for review. They are then brought to the commissioners to be reviewed and signed off on. And then at some point, I don't know, however, in this process, I would imagine the clerk reviews them. That's not my department, so I can't speak to that. But we're all very well aware that at the end of the budget cycle, you have a grace period of approximately 1 month until the beginning of November to have the invoices for the previous fiscal year in to be paid. We are always instructed to make a note. There's a date on the invoice of when they are. And if it's past that cutoff point, then they're paid out of the current fiscal year, not the previous fiscal year. If something has been put onto a previous fiscal year, my department is not capable of doing that on its own. So to put it out there, making it seem as though certain departments are coding things back to previous budget years, that's not possible with the way things are set up here. And how that could happen is not under the purview of my department. That would be a question for the clerk's office, if there could be any way that could possibly happen. In looking into the last 2 fiscal year budgets, which have both gone over, has been pointed out to me, it was discovered at some point while the clerk was working with the outside auditor, money had been instructed to move from one line, out of one line in my budget into another line that doesn't show. I can't speak to that or the reasons why, and that was not even done under our current clerk. I don't know that she would be able to answer that question, but I felt it pertinent to point out the complexity of some of these processes, and that a lot of this was really focused on the road department, and I felt the need to come forward. As far as talking about elected officials and department heads insinuating, saying the word incompetent, or that they don't care, I've worked with just about every elected official in this county. I've worked with every department head. I would not use the word incompetent to describe any of them. Nor would I use that to describe any of the department heads. I feel it's important that everybody that works here really seems to have a passion for doing right for the community, doing right for the county, for their departments. One of the main reasons that I decided to address this was because Mr. Wiener's comments were on the record, public, and they are available to view on YouTube anytime people wish to review the meetings. So I would like all the information to be out there. I won't say allegations, but claims or statements, assertions. They carry the potential for legal issues, legal investigations, loss of trust from the public, damage to the elected official or department head's integrity, the potential loss of employment, and the potential impact on future employment opportunities for that person. And so, we can't all be here at every meeting to possibly anticipate to address public comments. So from here on out, I will do my best to come back on the record and clarify if something is brought up or a claim or an assertion that's been made to my department. I feel that that's important to get all of the information out to the public and to hear both sides of everything.
Any questions?
No.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I would just like to go on the record and thank each and every one of our elected officials and department heads for the hard work that they put in for this county, for the taxpayers. It's very much appreciated from myself as a department head and also from myself as a taxpayer.
And we very much appreciate your efforts as well.
Thank you.
All right. Public comments.
Since I didn't know this was coming, I only got a few things with me. You can't break up a bid. The generators, the electric hooking them up, that's one bid. That was over $50,000. That should have been bid. What was the other one?
Are these questions or just
No, I'm
statements?
just making a statement. Yeah, I mean, if you've read the procurement procedure, you can't break up the bid. This procurement's been passed since 2021. We've already known that HMH Engineering, we paid them millions of dollars and never had a contract with them. We've got other people here with no contracts. The budget, as I said, was $174,000, $173,559. Over in February ended up 200-some thousand. The county should have had to do it by resolution to take cash out of their fund and put it into their fund, which was never done. The sanding trucks, if I remember right, that was actually, some of the money was used from surplus, which would have had to come to you guys to do a resolution. And if I remember right too, the sanding trucks, only one bid was presented to you guys. It said there was, I believe it said there was more, but only one was presented. So I don't know what I said that wasn't right. Wednesday I'll bring in evidence that what I say is from minutes of the meetings. Everything, I'll even look up that you can't break up the bids. As of right now, as far as I know, as of last year, there's been no bids on the fuel for the roads department or sheriff's office. That's well over the $50,000. That's 200-some thousand. I think 240 is what I read. So to sit here and say that my stuff is wrong, I'll bring you the evidence. I mean, you guys can read it.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I do. I understand that that is Mr. Wiener's interpretation of the procurement policy in Idaho Code. As far as the fuel is concerned, we looked into this prior to when I was the Public Works Director, when I was Jim Cason's assistant. We looked into it with legal, we looked into it with the commissioners, and since the purchases are weekly purchases and they are not one lump purchase, they decided that we did not have to bid on the fuel. If something has changed, please bring that to my attention.
Okay.
As far as the sand trucks, I think, I looked into the information that I brought to that meeting for the LATCF when the board approved the purchase of the sand trucks, and there were three quotes given, three Sourcewell quotes that were given for each size, because we were looking at two sizes of trucks. So I don't feel that Mr. Beaner's statement just now is correct. As far as the bid splitting, that's Mr. Beaner's interpretation of the procurement policy. I'm not an attorney. As far as I'm aware, he's not an attorney. So that might best be sorted out by our county attorney.
Thank you. Any other public comments from you today, sir?
No.
Okay. Anything further?
No.
Thank you for taking the time
Thank you.
doing that. Appreciate it very much. Okay, well, with that, we are adjourned.